All right, welcome to a new edition of Raw and Real with TJ and Jennifer. And went more of a casual route today in here on this sofa, the love seat, whatever.
We won't fall asleep, though,
No guarantees. We got in not too bad last night, but I mean, we got up and left. We were out the door at 5 o'clock. 30 degrees when we left here. It was chilly and
it's cold.
Winter is apparently in West Texas because today it's a blistering 48 degrees and windy.
It's cold.
So, but this is our jam, man. We like this. We enjoy this cold and coffee weather, and
this is when we thrive.
it is.
As long as I don't have to be out in it.
I was out in it a while ago running some errands and stuff, and I was like, yeah, it's pretty chilly. It would not be fun trying to play sports with the kids and all that. Tennis and blitzball and all that would be a chore. We're big on that. We're big on interaction. That was one of the main things we wanted to do, when we had already kind of, I think, been leaning towards homeschool when Brant's was diagnosed and helped finalize our decision, I guess you would say, because we were already kind of leaning that way. We were debating some stuff anyway, so I mean, it didn't really affect us much when he was diagnosed.
Right.
But we're big on that. We're big on, and I think that's why we wanted to do the whole travel thing we did for that 1 year, and it was pretty neat. It was pretty awesome for us to get to do that.
Yeah.
Go to places that I never would have dreamed of taking them, but we have those memories with them and stuff. Sorry,
I shouldn't have just eaten and then gotten comfy.
You looked at me like I don't know what to say next.
I thought you were still going,
No.
so I was like, and then I realized you weren't.
Gosh, we are, as Uncle Si would say, running off of sleep deprivation.
There is something wrong with us
goodness.
today for sure. We are not.
Oh wow.
A lot of things, I think, just on our brains and on our minds, and there's a lot going on behind the scenes, and I think that's it, actually.
It is. It's man alive. I mean, it's good stuff. It's positive stuff, and it's stuff that'll help a lot of people, I think, and it's something we're going to kind of slowly begin to stick our toes in the water on. One of the things I want to discuss today is leadership. It's been coming up quite a bit. It's something that's big to us, and it's something that I feel like is very important in anything. I don't care what it is, whether it's a church body, whether it's a local government, whether it's a national, federal government, whether it's your home, a business. Like, it doesn't matter. If there's not leadership, then you've got a whole lot of problems. And if we have time, another thing I'm going to get into a little bit is, false doctrine or whatever, because it all ties in together, in my opinion, and we'll get into that as we crack in. And this may be a two-part. We may conclude this on Thursday. You know what I mean? Get into the false doctrine and make it part two. Maybe the only way, because I don't think you could start it and not finish it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So that's probably what we're gonna do. But we've been placed in this situation more than once, and so I can't help but have a little bit to say about it. I'm not going to call myself an expert by any means, because every situation is individual. And I don't think you can ever have a playbook on how to handle it, because you find yourself in unique situations no matter what. And you can't have, okay, when A happens, this is how we're going to attack it. Because what A is on this situation may not be what A is on the 1-2 plays down the road. You know what I mean? And so there's just no way to do it. And so we always try to keep it fun and interesting and And sometimes you just have to roll your sleeves up and get down and dirty. And, you know, man alive, the amount of lack, let me rephrase that, the lack of leadership floating around today is truly eye-opening to me. In a lot of areas.
So many.
Because to be such a culture of entrepreneurship as this generation has become, the amount of the ability to work from home, the ability to start up a business off your phone, is just like, it's crazy, right? I mean, there's nothing you can't do anymore. There is no limits, it doesn't seem like. If you can dream it, you can accomplish it. And that is amazing. I think that's where America gets its backbone from, is people that have that entrepreneurial spirit, and, you know, they're striving to have breakthroughs in technology and whatever. I mean, that's the backbone of the American dream. That's the selling point. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, I mean, with that kind of freedom and that kind of liberty, it blows my mind that there is not better leadership all the way around from top to bottom.
Very true. Very true. And we're talking about people that are in leadership roles that are either not prepared, not ready, weren't called to that role. They were just thrown into that role. Or it was just something they thought looked like fun and went after it. You know what I mean?
No, I do.
It's not like we're talking about these leaders that are effectively leading people. We're talking about these people that it's ineffective leadership.
Yeah, and it's way deeper and more intense than I think people pay attention to. It's almost like when I was writing the other day, and I was talking about we just don't care in my blog. You know, I do feel like that. I feel like that's the biggest problem that we have as a culture all around the world. It's not our problem, so let's not worry about it. Somebody else will deal with it, but the problem is nobody picks up the problem. Everybody just keeps passing it off, blowing it off, and then we're like, it hits the news as a national or a worldwide incident, and we're like, what the heck? You know, like, somebody's got to fix this. You know, and the truth is, I feel like God is saying, I have sent it to a lot of different people, and nobody wants to pick it up. You know, nobody's taken that role, that leadership role, to pick it up and carry. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, you look at a sports team, whether it's basketball or football or anything that requires people working together at the same time. You take football. If the quarterback turns and throws the ball behind him and nobody's there to catch it and pick it up or take it off and run with it, like, it's just a loose free ball. Anybody can score with it from that point. And so that's what happens. You know what I mean? It really does in our culture. And then when something bad goes wrong, it's everybody wants to point the finger at somebody else, but nobody was willing to pick it up and take control of it.
Right.
And so that's a problem to me.
Or, you know, the other part of that is too many chiefs and not enough Indians. You know, there's too many people wanting to run the show. There's too many people wanting to manage and micromanage and be this, and this, that there's not enough people to manage because you're all micromanaging each other and bumping heads and running into each other.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
Until something bad happens and nobody wants to take the fall, nobody wants to take the blame, nobody wants to step up and be like, that was my bad.
Yeah.
That was totally on me. That was my fault. Nobody wants to do that in that scenario. Nobody wants to be held accountable.
Well, you know, I started looking up examples for reference points and things, and, you know, some of the things that the Bible gives definitions or references to, and I got to about 10 things here, but I mean, one of those is Hebrews 10:24 through 25, and it's talking about, it gives reference to coming together. And a lot of people, I think, use this one for like a church reference because it's basically talking about, forsake not the assembly of brethren, and that gets used a lot. Well, this is God saying we're supposed to go to church. And granted, it may be taken that way. I'm not saying it's wrong for being taken that way, but my problem with that is what good does it do to go to church if you're not in one mind and one accord? And I think that's what that scripture, the way I interpret it, is really getting after. That we're supposed to meet up, but we're supposed to be on the same page, going after the same goals, unified.
Right.
That's, to me, what that scripture is talking about. And so that, to me, is a leadership role. Somebody, I don't care if you're running the Church of the Holy Baba, somebody's got to lead it. Somebody's got to be the leader. Somebody's got to be in charge, period. And they have to make sure that everybody's on the same page.
Yes.
And that is the most crucial part to me from a leader. Somebody's got to be in charge. Somebody needs to be the one to go to for accountability.
Right.
It has to be.
Right.
Without that, there's no leader. You've just got, 8 or so many guys that are all trying to work together on one project and call the shots, but there's nobody to go to, then there is no leadership. Right. And to me, the thing will not stand without it.
No, anything without leadership is going to fall. I mean, it will crumble.
Right.
Without the help of a leader. I mean, you can't take an army into battle without a leader.
No, you just got a bunch of guys running around with guns,
Yeah,
I mean, right, there's got to be a strategy.
Without a leader, it's going to crumble.
Yeah. Another thing that I come across was Proverbs 27:17, and it's talking about, team leadership is kind of what, if you had to put it in context. But I mean, it's basically the context there is iron sharpens iron. Is that's the scripture everybody refers to a lot for that, And that's important in leadership, that we hold each other accountable. Mm-hmm. Even though you've got a leader, which to me is the mainstay. Like, there needs to be somebody or a couple of somebodies that are holding that leader accountable to help him stay on track and hold the ones under him accountable. Yeah. It's kind of a two-part thing. I'm the leader. I'm the one calling the shots. But I've got, a couple of guys or 3 or 4 guys underneath me that are giving me, godly wisdom, godly advice, and making sure that I'm staying on track and I'm not becoming like a dictatorship or, I'm not getting out of hand, that I'm staying the course to lead and guide them in the right way.
That one's tricky.
Yeah, it is.
Because if you're starting a church or you're starting a business or anything to that aspect, like our LLC, we have board members.
Yes.
And those members were placed by us because they have a non-biased opinion.
Right.
They have a spot in us, like we trust their judgment, we trust their insight, because they're not going to tell us what we want to hear. Those people that are on that board or in that spot on our LLC are there because they're not here to tickle our fancy, and they get nothing from the decisions we make. Mm-hmm. So it's just solid, sound people with a solid background. With, they've proven themselves to be solid in that aspect. And so many people, I feel like, jump off into that, and they're being tossed to and fro because their board members or their people behind them that are holding them accountable are not steady and stable. They're tossing them to and fro. And that's not good leadership. You don't need somebody in that position that's just going to tell you what you want to hear and agree with you on everything.
Absolutely.
The best part of that, having that board, is having people that are not going to agree with you.
Right.
That have a difference of opinion. It may not mean that you go with everything they say. They may be way off track and they may be completely wrong. But having that they're not just saying, oh, that's a great idea. Go do that. No, TJ. You got to stop, back up. There's a process. We need to go this route, or I think it'd be better if you did this, or that's a horrible idea. Like, I don't even know where you came up with that.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
But that's what's needed.
Yes.
That's exactly what's needed, and in so many operations, it's not looked at or used. Why do you think our government is set up the way it is, with what I would call checks and balances, so to speak? It's for that very reason, so that one man isn't calling the shots, running willy nilly. Because how many times could it get to the point of overwhelming issues like an attack or something like that? It's so easy to get off into the flesh. It's so easy to get off and to get wrapped up in the emotions of things that you're just hitting the nuclear button and blowing everything to hell. It would be easy to do. That's why it's set up that way, and it's really encouraged that we carry it out that way. I'm not saying everybody gets it right and that governments don't make mistakes, but I mean, that's the root of it for being in place. And to me, it's no different in a business or a ministry or anything. It should be that same way, because leadership is so crucial to keep things in line, in order. And like you say, somebody needs to be there that's not just rooting and rawing you on to continue to go. They need to keep you in check, and that scripture right there is key to that. Iron sharpens iron. We're the best that we can be when we're held accountable. We're the best that we can be when, we're keeping each other on track.
Yes.
And unified. It's no different than you take our marriage. Okay, yes, me and you can operate as a couple without having any interaction with each other. You do your thing, I do my thing. We're together in public appearances. We're together in front of the kids. We're together when it counts. But other than that, we can function perfectly fine, not even in the same household. Okay? It can happen. But a marriage is the strongest and purest and the most ideal when the two of you are able to communicate. You're able to put things in check. You're able to take criticism respectfully and put it to the use of bettering yourself. You're at full capacity when you're able to, have a disagreement, but know that it's out of love and respect. And even though we may get a little worked up about something, we can still come together at the end of the day, put it all to rest, and know that other one was looking out for us. Right. See, that's the same thing. Iron sharpens iron. It still works together in a relationship, in anything. It's all about leadership. Granted, it gets overused and it ticks me off where, man is head of household. Yeah, biblically, the man is head of household. That does not mean that your wife is nothing more than a cook and a maid. Like, that just infuriates me. If she finds pride and pleasure in that and it's not expected, that's one thing. You know what I mean? Because I understand some women, they're just, that's their passion. You know what I mean? To be a mom, to be a wife, and there's nothing wrong with that. I have the problem with when it's expected and demanded, and I'm head of household, I get the final say. Just because you're head of household doesn't mean you got a lick of sense between your two ears.
In all of these situations that we've listed,
yeah,
it comes down to one thing.
Okay.
You have to lose your pride. You have to drop your pride. You have to be willing to accept criticism. You have to be willing to accept somebody not agreeing with you. You have to accept that while you're the head of that, while you're the in charge, while you're the leader, you still have to answer to somebody, and you have to be okay with that. That's where great leaders come in.
Yeah.
They drop their pride. They take corrective criticism, constructive criticism,
corrective criticism.
Whatever, it works.
Exhaustion. Anyway,
we probably shouldn't even post this.
No, we're going to because it's funny.
You have to lose your pride.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing, in a marriage too. you can't be so prideful that when your wife comes to you wanting to do something that you're like, no.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's same thing with women. We have to drop our pride too, because yes, at the end of the day, you are head of household. But would I be doing anybody any service if you were like, we're all going to go jump off a cliff tomorrow?
Right.
Probably a lot of people, but
What?
anyway, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I do.
I would have to be like, hold up, this isn't the way it's supposed to go. And there's been times, even in our marriage and in several people's marriages, where the wife has had to step up and be that.
Yeah, I mean, it was that way for us for a while.
Spiritual leader, because we were literally driving off of a cliff.
Yep.
Somebody has to jump over and stop the car.
Right.
Because the person driving is not in control anymore.
No, for sure. And I'm glad you brought up the pride. I believe, what is it, Proverbs 6, Proverbs 7? I'll have to go back in there and double check. I didn't even bring my Bible in here with me, but I think it's in there. But it says literally, I won't quote it because I'm off, but it says, 6 things does the Lord hate, yet 7 is an abomination to him. Okay? And it starts going through there. The 7th thing, it gives the 6 things that he hates, but it says, yet the 7th is an abomination to him. And the very thing it lists is a prideful look. Pride is the one thing that's an abomination to God. It is the one thing that interferes with everything in his plan, because, you know, it's that human will, that pride, that battle right in there. Like, he can have nothing to do with that because he cannot go around that. And being prideful, being so, and there's a difference, and I've tried to teach this to the boys and even our daughter, but, you know, there's a difference between having pride about yourself and being prideful. And I've tried hard to instill the difference between that. You know, having pride and taking pride in what you do and who you are is godly. You care, you're concerned about your appearance, the way people perceive you, you know, things like that. Those are key areas that are important. But being unteachable and being to the point where nobody can reason with you, and, you know, that is being prideful, and that is not where we need to be.
That's what causes the downfall of a leadership role,
Yep.
or of leaders, or of businesses, or churches, or
yes.
whatever you're into. Ultimately, that's what kills them. That's what breaks them.
No, it does.
Pride.
And
the leader having so much pride that they can't resolve and fix.
Well, that and the fact of the matter of, you know, to me, there's 2 kinds of leaders. And one of those is a self-made leader, self-motivated. And they've had to learn things the hard way, and they bring with them knowledge when they get there. The second one is a born leader. They've always been a leader. When you were kids playing, they were able to lead a whole group of neighborhood kids to do anything they wanted to. When they were in high school, they were normally your quarterback or whatever that was able to lead the football team or track team or whatever, you know, and then college the same way. And they're just naturally born leaders. They come by it honestly. But there's the third type that's never talked about, and it's the wannabe leader. And to me, they're the most dangerous. Because a wannabe leader has just enough knowledge to be ineffective in the areas that are crucial to lead somebody. And they are the ones that want the recognition, they want the pat on the back, they want they want the praise and they want the glory, but they don't really want to do the work.
Yeah.
And it's not that I don't know what I'm doing, but I really want this so that I can benefit others, and we make mistakes. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the ones that are truly just seeking the fame, the fortune, the acknowledgement, but behind the scenes, they don't want anything to do with anything. And we are about to our first break, so I'll take a break, and when we come back, I will get into a little bit more of what I was talking about to clarify.
Okay.
All right? We'll be right back with Raw and Real with TJ and Jen. I know, and I
'Cause I don't do it enough.
probably shouldn't, but I think sometimes people get sick and tired of hearing me. So, you know what I mean? I don't know. I'm just being silly, but for real, I don't know. I mean, I just think it would work better when we take little breaks and jump in there. So we'll call this one Leadership and Sound Doctrine. How about that? I tell you what, coming up with the names for these things is sometimes just as hard as, you know what I mean? I mean, I'm like, what do we call this one? But anyway, poor YouTube, they always get the behind the scenes stuff that podcast doesn't, and they're like, nobody really cares. I get it. And we are back with Raw and Real with TJ and Jen, and you know, we were talking about that third person, whatever you want to call it, in the leadership role, whatever. But you know, that wannabe, and the problem with that is, and we've seen it a few times in our lifetime of helping out and doing what we've done ministry wise, but you know, they, as Glenn used to say, they blow in, blow up, and blow out. And what I mean is they come into a situation and they put on a big show and then they blow out the door, and they're not there for the preparation, they're not there for the cleanup, they're not there for the aftermath. They just like the spotlight and the stage. And that brings in so many problems because you take Christianity and that whole walk, for example, because it's just something that I can relate to exhaustion's getting me more easily. I'm trying to use correct grammar here. Man, I didn't realize how tired we are. But I mean, let's it's something I can give a good example on. A lot of people think getting born again is pretty much the top tier, okay? It's not. I'm just here to tell you, if you're listening and you're paying attention to us, it's not. It is only the beginning. And I'm not saying it's not a difficult fight, and I'm not saying it's not a courageous victory, okay? So don't get me wrong if you're newly born again or it's been laying on your heart to become born again and believe that Jesus is the Lord and Savior of your life, okay? It is a big deal, and sometimes it's a big battle just to get there. But I'm telling you, you've only made it to the first foxhole. There's still a lot of ground and a lot of war in between you and the next step. And I'm not trying to frighten you, but more encourage you. So what I'm getting at is, you take somebody that's a newly born again Christian. They come to a place, say a church or an outreach center or whatever, and there is a lot of stuff going on that they don't know about, behind the scenes, whatever. They bring in a guy that puts on this amazing performance up there, has this funny message, the crowd's all in tune, everybody's laughing, cutting up, carrying on. And when they're done, they leave. So you leave there feeling good. And you're like, okay, you know, that was awesome. I like this church. I'm going to come back next week. Well, when you go back next week, there's the actual pastor's there. And he's struggling for whatever reason. But he's still trying to do what he thinks he's supposed to be doing, so he's there. And he's trying to preach and he's trying to lead the congregation. These people don't realize what all's going on behind the scenes, and they don't realize what all's going on at that pastor's home, okay? So they're getting some mixed signals in their gut, but they don't really know what to make of it. That's why it's a problem, because of these babies, these immature Christians that don't have a full grasp. And I remember being there, being so new to being saved, and everything I could get my hands on, I was grabbing a hold of. And I learned through trial and error what was good for me and what wasn't good for me. And I'm not saying that it's not good or good for everybody. It's just what worked for me. Certain things I would grab a hold of, and I'm like, that's not really my cup of tea. And I'd set it back down, and I would grab onto something else. You know, whatever I could get, books, messages, whatever. You know what I mean? And so when you're young and you're inspired and you're on fire and all you want to do is obtain everything that you can get your hands on, sometimes when this leader is not truly wholeheartedly into leading, you've got all these baby Christians that you're bringing along with you, and you're dragging them through the mud. We gave reference to it earlier in our discussion of like two parents going through a nasty divorce, and the kids are the ones that end up paying, no matter what. So it's a relative reference, in my opinion.
And I think too, this really relates to us because we got on fire with Monty and Susan.
Yes.
And then they were taken from us within 6 months.
I had never even thought about that, but yeah.
Of being, this heart on fire, babies, and we were sitting under them was incredible. I don't think we knew at the time how much they would play into our life.
Right.
And when they were gone, like, we were thrown
upside down. I had never thought about it, honestly, until you just brought it up.
Like, I really think that's why this resonates so much with us, and we can see it from the outside looking in, because that was us.
Yeah, it was.
We were thrown into being babies. And some of those still being babies at that point was our decision, because we weren't quite ready to grow up, I don't think. And we were still, you're fighting through those battles as a baby.
Yeah.
Christian.
No, you are.
You're like, well, can I drink? Can I cuss? Oh no, I did this wrong. And that's not it at all, but it is truly what you go through.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my gosh, I've screwed up this weekend.
I'm not.
We twisted off last night.
I don't feel as holy as I'm supposed to feel.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to feel holy. I don't feel holy.
Pastors up there, and they're like all perfect, and you're like, whoa.
Monty was one of those naturally born leaders, in my opinion. Yes. He could lead a group of ants into the ocean. He was that way. He had a way of getting to people. He was direct. He was funny. He was inspiring. Like, all those things wrapped up into one.
Yeah. And she was just the same, if not better in her own way.
Quiet, soft-spoken.
Very soft-spoken, she didn't get worked up about anything, and that's what we sat under, and then it was gone, and nobody has ever filled that void. And they're not supposed to, so don't take me wrong on that either. They're not supposed to, but we really knew and felt what leadership was, and then it was like we were stuck with nothing.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Glenn and Ann came in and scooped us up and carried us too. And they were amazing leaders as well.
But completely different.
Yeah. Completely different.
Old school. That's what I refer to it as, like old school.
Yes.
Like a mother, a father, correcting, guiding, whatever.
Yes. If you've never been chewed out by Ann, I don't think I ever got scolded by Glenn.
That really wasn't.
But I did get scolded by Ann.
Yeah, Ann was more of the corrector. Glenn was more of the comedian, encourager, whatever, to me. Being an evangelist, he was always the life of the party. Doesn't hurt that he was a rodeo clown in his former days, and like a true old-fashioned where they did the entertainment and saved the riders. Like it wasn't like bullfighters and barrel men are now. Like it was. They were entertainers, professional rodeo entertainers is what they did. And they, helped the cowboys out. But
we lost that leadership, and I think that's why it's so strong on us and such a big part of who we are. That's why we relate so easily to it.
Yeah, God was molding us for such a time as this, and we didn't know it then. And heck, we didn't even know it until just... a little while ago, and I don't mean that literally, but I mean in a figurative sense, like, all this stuff was going on, but we didn't really understand why, and it's like, now I get it, like, he's wanting us to, speak out and voice out and be a part of helping establish leadership, and I get it now, but we wouldn't have had that knowledge had we not gone through it,
Right.
And one of the other things that I had looked up was true leadership. And, like true leadership requires wisdom and faith unwavering. And if you read that's referenced in Matthew 24 and starting in verse 45, it gets into describing all of that. And it's important that, a true leader is seeking wisdom. He's giving wisdom. And his faith in whatever he's leading is unwavering. Like nothing is going to change that. Because there's nothing worse than somebody that's trying to lead and they're all over the place. They're uncertain. You can tell like they don't have all the knowledge they need to be where they are. And so what they're doing is they're just kind of like swinging at pitches, hoping to God they can make contact with one of them and at least get a base hit out of it and be happy. When, in my opinion, what I try to do is project the image of a man who is fully confident, fully standing on what I'm saying, fully intending on knocking that ball to the third level of that stadium. Like, I'm confident. One of the greatest things I ever learned in my secular job was at Cavender's when I was the assistant manager. And they gave us as much education on the products we sold as we could get at the time. They were even willing to send us to these manufacturers would take us in and walk us through the process because they're taught to teach their salespeople, like myself, the more knowledge you have about something, the better you can sell it. The more you can make that customer believe that you know everything about that pair of boots from beginning to end, that boot's easier for me to sell to you because you're going to hear me talk about that boot, where it's made, how it's made, the quality that goes into it, this, that, and the other. It's going to be real easy for me to sell you on that. And some people may think that's deception. Other people look at it as, this dude really knows what he's talking about. If he tells me that this boot's better, even though it's $100 more, I'm going to do it. And it's not that I'm trying to be deceptive or take another $100 out of somebody's pocket. I'm 9 times out of 10 in this thing for you more than myself. I mean, I'm human, so I'm going to say 9 out of 10. But that's just my heartbeat. It's no different than when I get up and I share the gospel. I truly, wholeheartedly believe in what I'm talking about up there. It's not something I'm just throwing together on a piece of paper to take up 30, 45 minutes of your time. Just like these podcasts that we're doing. I'm not doing this just because I got nothing else to do today. You know what I mean? I'd much rather be in there binge watching my newly found passion show that I've got going on. You know what I mean? But it's on my heart to be the best spokesman for God that I can be. And if that means that we're doing podcasts on Monday and Tuesday, and Monday and Thursday, and we're doing blogs on Tuesday and Wednesday, and we got this going on Friday, like, so be it.
Well, what's the saying? Knowledge is power?
Knowledge is power.
It's true. Like, your knowledge of the word is powerful in your testimony. Because without the knowledge of the word, how would you know you have a testimony?
You wouldn't.
Exactly. And your knowledge in your field. Like, I was a nurse. There's multiple fields you can go into as a nurse.
Yeah.
Don't ask me to come deliver your baby. I've done it. And I will do it again.
Right.
But that's not my knowledge field. That's not where I was knowledgeable at.
Right.
I went to work in the burn unit. I had to learn a whole new world of nursing. And the more you soak up, the more knowledge you have, the more at ease your patients are.
Yes.
If I come in there and be like, I don't know what I'm doing, but we're going to give her a shot, like, your patient's going to be like, cut my leg off. Don't touch me. Yeah.
Well, Dad always taught me this. He always said this little saying, and it stuck with me. Knowledge is the one thing that once you possess it, nobody can take it from you.
Very true.
Dan Crenshaw talks about this in his book. And it means a lot to me because I use it in a lot of ways. The book is Fortitude, but he gives a description. How would you feel if it was you and a Marine dropped off in a remote village somewhere overseas? All right, I'm not going to call anybody out. And that Marine looks at you the minute you start taking fire and says, "What are we to do?" Like, you're going to panic. First, I am. I'm like, you're the dude that's supposed to know this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, you're supposed to be the Marine. You're supposed to be the leader.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, that is always resonated with me. Like, be the leader. Be the one that knows, what's going on, the ups, the downs, the ins, the outs. Lead those people.
Right.
Because it's crucial.
And you're not going to know everything. And that's okay. But what you don't know, when they ask you, be like, you know what? I don't know. But I'm going to find out, and I'll be right back. And that's your mission. Like, your employee or your confidant that's coming to you is asking guidance, and you may not know.
Right.
I didn't know how to birth babies. I had to learn on the fly.
Yeah, you were thrown into that one.
I did research. So the next time I was thrown in that,
right,
I knew what I was doing. I knew what I was looking at. You know what I mean? That's another key factor in being a leader. Not knowing everything, but being willing to find it out. Right. And being willing to say, I don't know, but let's figure it out together. Or let me go make some calls, or let me get on my phone, whatever the case may be, to figure out that answer.
Yes. Yeah, and I think that's exactly what Matthew, is talking about when we're talking about that true leadership. They have the wisdom to honestly take you by the hand and make you believe in what they're telling you.
Yes.
They're being true leaders. They're being somebody that is seeking something, more grand than just financial stability. Or, you can tell by looking at them that they really believe in the products that they're backing, or they really believe in what they are telling you. And you can tell a difference if you're paying attention.
You can tell a leader that's just in something for the money.
Yeah.
Right off the bat.
Right.
Or I can. Maybe because I've been there a lot.
Well, I think it's one of your callings. And I've started to pick some things up from you. You know what I mean? Because I'm kind of that good-hearted boy that I pretty much take everybody. My dad always said, son, you think everybody's great till they prove you wrong. That's one of your mistakes. And then, you come along and you're like, I don't trust them. And I'm like, oh, they're fine. And then I get burned. I was like, well, you're right. So after, 20 plus years, you're rubbing off on me. It's just one of your callings, that spiritual discernment and the gifts of the Holy Spirit. But truthfully, you can tell when a person now, the more you get that knowledge and wisdom, you can tell when a person's really, really in it. And they're really trustworthy people.
And I will respect you 100 times more if you look me straight in the face and be like, I have no idea. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna find out. And I'm gonna get you some answers, and we're gonna work through it together. I will respect you. I will follow you into battle.
Right.
If you're honest with me like that. Don't sit there and feed me a line of crap that I know you're sitting there feeding me a line of crap.
Right.
Because nothing you're saying is making sense.
Not only that, it's kind of like that reference the Bible gives about a wolf in sheep's clothing. And I'll have to go dig that up and find it, but everybody knows the story. Those people are out there. And that's basically what we're getting into when we talk about that third leader that's just in it for the fame or whatever. Like, they're waiting and luring, waiting to bite you. They're waiting to take you out, take you down. They may have a different way of going about it. They may have a different way of doing it, but that's their intention. And those are the people that really get under my skin. And I don't mind getting on here and calling them out because I'm right here if you want to reach back out to me. It ticks me off when people use other people for their own benefit, especially when it comes into the ministry world. Don't mistreat my God, my family, or my country. Those are three things that I am highly, highly dependent upon. And dadgum, I mean, it's just, there's no sense in anybody using God as a reference to steal from somebody else. It infuriates me. Don't go start a church if you don't have full intentions of seeing that thing through. Yeah. Period. The water's going to get hot. It's going to get messy. It's going to get dirty. And you're probably going to have to drain it and refill it multiple times over to get it to where it's supposed to be. How long did God work on you? I mean, think about it. How long did God work on you? How long did God spend molding and shaping and everything else before the appearance of a finished product started to appear? I know he must have been out of his dadgum mind by the time I got to this point. Frustrated, wore out, like ready to give up. But he didn't. He stayed with me. He had people in my life that were influential, that were interceding, that were on top of every move I made to the point they were driving me crazy. But they were in there for a reason, and now look what's come out of all that. So he put that much work in me. Don't you dare short anybody else the same respect that's owed to them by sticking it out, persevering, no matter how bad and messed up and how many times you've got to regroup and start over. I don't care if you're at 300 people and it falls down to 12. If that's your restarting spot and a place that needed to get to, then so be it.
Sometimes you have to drain the swamp.
Yeah. That's exactly right.
It hurts and it stinks because you do get attached to people and you love people and you want to see them at their best. You want to see them fulfill their calling and you want to see them live in their full purpose. But sometimes that's not meant for you to see. You were just that seed and you have to let them go and you kind of have to let them fall before they can come back. And when they're in that process and you're so attached and you're so glued in that they're pulling you down with them. And that's where you have to detach.
I like it. Works for me. You're going to hear all kinds of new words you've never heard before on here, folks, because we literally write the dictionary. Y'all didn't know it. We give Webster credit, but it's actually us writing it.
Yeah.
Detachment.
Like, you have to break free from them in order for them to grow and you to come back to your leadership role. Yeah. At the end of the day, you're still in that leadership position. You can't be attached to people to where they're dragging you down their path. Because you've already been there most of the time. You don't need to go back there. Just let them go. Drain your swamp and allow a rebuild.
No, and that's good. And really and truthfully, I feel like we're just cracking into this and just barely getting into all of this. And I think that's probably what we'll do on Thursday is start out finishing up here and then get over into the false doctrine. And there's a reason we're going this route, folks, and we'll have it all finished and cleared up on Thursday for you. Just bear with us as this pans out because there's so much to just try to shove into one episode. I want to do it justice and walk through it slow so that our point is made clearly. Yeah. So that hopefully we can help somebody out there, because I don't feel like God just told us something by chance. I feel like there's a reason that he's telling us to share this stuff. Like there's somebody out there going through it. Like there's somebody, whoever, wherever between here and Canada that's paying attention, that's needing some perspective. I'm not going to say come to us for sound advice. Like that, I'm not selling that. But I mean, it is a perspective, and I think it's worth listening to. I know me, if I'm trying to go into, some kind of field, I'm going to get 3 or 4 stories, 3 or 4 perspectives, and see which one really sticks. And I guess for me, that's what I'm saying, that this is just a perspective. This is just what God's laid on our heart. So take it, compare it to somebody else that's got a different point of view or maybe more knowledge or whatever, and put together what God's laying on your heart. But we'll get into that next week, and we'll tie all that in.
And I think, too, we need to touch on the topic of the people that are craving leadership. Because
this
not everybody was called to be a leader.
No.
Not everybody was called into that. So maybe you're the one out there that's waiting for your leader to step up, and you're craving that leadership, and you're craving that someone to follow, and like you're in that position where you're craving that leadership. You need that in your life. You're going through some things, and you need that leadership in your life.
Awesome. Well, may turn this into a 3-parter then. Who knows? But I think it needs to be addressed. I really do. There's a lot here, and it's even biblical what we're fixing to get into. So we will be back with you guys on Thursday and see where else God takes us right here.
Maybe after some sleep.
Hey, y'all will be more benefited by it, I promise. So anyway, we love you guys. Reach out to us through email, private message. All our social media platforms are still up. DM us, email us at quintinministries@gmail.com.
That'd be a good thing too. Email us your questions
I'd love
leadership,
it. Yeah,
where you're at with leadership.
Ideas, thoughts, questions,
we'll
anything.
As many of those as we can.
Absolutely. We love you guys. We'll see you in a couple days on Raw and Real with TJ and Jen.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
I forget how short I am.